You know what's kind of funny? That this thing actually says game 3D game stick and it's the Gamebox Plus, so the naming of these things makes no sense. Okay. And we do have connection. Okay, so the overall menu, let's take a close look at it, because this thing is purely made for not tinkering. That's one thing to be sure. When you're actually looking at everything over here, there is nothing we can change out. The Gamebox Plus is just actually a device that has been used in different kind of form factor. That's also one of the reasons why it's called 3D Game Stick. The menu is pretty damn basic, and at that point there is nothing much you can tweak about it. At the right bottom corner, we're finding overall, like say, the controls of the device. That also includes the search and making a favorite game list. Pressing select and start will give you the option menu. The emulator video as ratio is only one of the things you can change out. That's it. There is nothing much you can just see here. Options more. Here we can change out the language if you want to, but also the control settings. That's kind of interesting because we can still have the option to tweak the menu when it comes to, say, the controls if you want to implement new ones. And of course we can just quit the menu over here or go back into a reboot from Android, but also restart the system and shut it down. The menu itself is very basic. We can just press left and right going to favorites, having PlayStation Portable, Dreamcast, Sega Naomi, Nintendo DS, N64, PlayStation, MAME, Capcom Classics. We have all kinds of different systems, and there's a lot of different stuff we can actually play on this. But I mainly want to focus, I will grab a couple of handhelds and 8-bit systems, 16-bit systems, but I wanted to see how far we can push it when it comes to certain devices, particularly when it comes to, let's say, Sega Dreamcast and Sega Naomi, because those devices are very demanding. And is it even worth picking a device up like this if it doesn't even run all of the devices? Because they do advertise with a lot of stuff, and most of the time it's going to be a lie. Pressing select to start will bring you in the special menu of the PlayStation Portable emulator, the PPSSPP. But unfortunately, there is nothing we can do here. We can make a quick load, quick save. By the way, if you want to make a save, it will take up a lot of time to actually make a save. It's quite interesting that they configure it like this. But getting into the gameplay, you will see it stutters and we have a lot of glitches going on. And the reason why they're using an old emulator in combination with old hardware specs. Next up, Sega Dreamcast. The performance, it's okay. I mean, particularly you will hear and see some minor dips in the particular game I'm playing now. And getting into some, let's say, Dead or Alive 2, you will have less overall performance. But the performance is not bad for this old box itself. And I can just personally really enjoy this game. But with this emulator we're running on RetroR, and here we're having a slightly different option. We can restart the game, resume, we can even choose a the same different save slot. But take consideration there's no screenshots where we don't know exactly where we've been. So, you know, it's kind of cool to have this, but in my opinion it doesn't give you extra value. But let's move on into the Sega Naomi, the arcade part of it. And you can hear sometimes that it stutters the same like the Sega Dreamcast, but I'm quite surprised with the overall performance of this box, where we don't have like super many glitches going on. And take note that this thing is running on some old school parts, so this is not like the latest AM Logic chipset they're using in this. There you can hear that it actually like stutters. There you can just hear that it struggles. Of course, the test of Atomus Wave with some Dolphin Blue. The performance of this game is not going to be great. I do hear a lot of stutters going on. It's still playable some way. We have seen some really bad overall performance. This is not like the way you actually want to play this. You can just hear how it basically sounds. Nintendo DS is one of those systems I personally don't like playing on this, but if you're having a huge screen, maybe you can really enjoy. So pressing the right joystick will activate your digital stylus, where we can just choose our save file. Left joystick will give you one single screen. So with the R2 we can switch between the modes. Having single screen, you can just do it like that. So the overall performance, it's going to be okay on these cheaper devices. I'm just going to be honest, I'm just really hating this, playing it like this. The overall performance is quite nice. But N64, that is always the major problem with these cheaper boxes. With Cruise in the World, we have absolutely some overall good performance, and that is the thing with N64. We have a hit and miss situation. The more demanding games, GoldenEye or maybe in Perfect Dark, they will not run perfectly on this, having a lot of issues. But there are some games like Cruise in the World that can really enjoy. Well, not many bugs or any glitches or any slowdown so far I can see. So one of the issues I'm always having with these PlayStation 1 games is that we don't have any background music going on. They remove this every single time because this saves out a lot of, let's say, space. But in the end, when you're just going to be enjoying some PlayStation 1, these systems are absolutely great. We've reached the point that we can actually use all of these cool games and have no problem with emulating them. But what I need to take consideration also is that this is going to be running on native resolution. Okay, so 64 Speed is one of my favorite beat 'em up games to play on MAME. So when it comes to MAME, we can play like wonders, even thousands of different games are supported by a box like this. But the thing is, if you're getting into Killer Instinct and all the other ones, like the more demanding ones, Tekken is one of those ones too, they will not relate at all. We need to have more power, and these cheap game boxes are not capable of doing it. But how freaking cool is it nowadays that we have a freaking game box for not a lot of money that can just actually play all of these freaking things out of the box. I do have the idea that they are using a weird filter on these games, particularly when it comes to the two-dimensional games. Arcade also noticed it, but they implemented the right aspect ratio, so I'm very glad that they did this. So let's see how the D-pad of this thing works. I need to really get used to it. It's not my favorite D-pad whatsoever, but it seems to be working. I think it's maybe one of the better D-pads I've ever played. But I cannot do any supers. It's not a personal handicap, it's just this controller is freaking awful when it comes to that. Ah, finally. But the overall gameplay and also the emulation performance of Neo Geo seems to be working just fine. But if you're looking at the devices like in Game Boy Advance, they run just perfectly on a device or in Game Box Plus. And also they implemented the right aspect ratio, at least added some black bars so we don't have the scratched fluffy Crash Bandicoot. It's absolutely great out of the box and it seems to be working just fine. Also implemented this special filter over it so it looks kind of more polished. No weird things going on, no input audio delay whatsoever.